Hey guys, good morning. Well, it's still morning where I am. It's Celine, and I'm going to do another witchy check-in. I don't like what the light is doing here. For some reason, there's this sunlight coming from my right side over here, and I can't see anything on the other side of me. So that's not really the normal MO of this place here. So I'm going to try and shift you over slightly. Does that help? No. How about this? No. The sun's shining on my, that's slightly better, on my table, like this. I'm going to pause and sit on the other side of the table, right? There you go. Now at least we can all see what I actually do look like. Slightly further back, like so. I'm going to light us some of my newly made incense. Well, it's not newly made, it's been a week. Looks like this. This is it does have actually a picture of a pumpkin, very badly drawn on a sticker, and it's all stuck together now because it's full of resin bits and things. This is Cypress seed, balls that they look like, mostly without the seeds, crushed up in your mortar. That takes a while to get that done. And with 2 types of cinnamon bark in there, and some benzoate resin. So that's actually a natural Sumatra, Indonesia, Southeast Asia type resin that you can buy on the internet really easily, I think. Or at least I can, where I am. And what else? There is some wormwood herb in there, seed, actually flowers from wormwood plants. This is my Halloween-ish, going into winter type incense. And I've tried it on burning on charcoal discs like we do, However, you get a really quick mass of smoke and not that much of the really nice fragrance of this mix. So what I'm doing is I have tea lights and I have this thing here. This is actually just an oil burner. So where normally you would have like a little cup sitting on top of this instead of the folded aluminum foil, you'd have a little stone cup or maybe glass that you put water in, and your tea light goes in the bottom like so. And the distance is fairly short, which is good because you want heat to go in there. I've used this type of thing, this type of model, lots of times for burning oils in water and so on and so forth. I don't really do it that much anymore, even though it's really nice. You get real nice fragrance in the house. It's not burnt. It's not like smoke. You get the actual pure essential oil. So if people are really stressed out, a lavender or lavender and citrus type combination of oils will, it will just do wonders for the atmosphere in the house. This is a bit different. The aluminum is just aluminum foil that I folded over, I don't know, 16 times or something, It goes on top. I just have to make sure that it actually stays put. You could make a better type of, cup that actually sits tightly on top of the holder. As long as I put this in the middle of my table and don't kick it around, it should be okay. Then I put about, a pinch and a half of this mixture on top of the aluminum foil, and what you get is just basically a fume rather than a smoke coming from the the little bits and pieces in there. There's rose leaf in there as well from my own garden. The cypress balls, maybe I should try and show you one of those. I have seen one of them recently, and of course they're in my harvesting bag. If you want to know, you will look it up, or you already know what it is that I'm talking about, okay? This starts to smell right away. The heat goes into the aluminum foil and it starts to give this wonderful. It's just the combo of the cinnamon and the cypress is the most Halloweeny. It's bloody fabulous if I do say so myself. So, having done that, okay, we're prepped for now. You know how this works, what this looks like. I haven't been on for a while. I was this close to completely abandoning YouTube, which is what happens for me when I am generally doing other things, you know. There's only so much a person can do, really, isn't there? You just have to let it go, you know, for a bit. And for me, it turns out that it was only really a week. Not recording was actually a bit more than that. I think I didn't record all of last week, really. So I decided that I wanted to put on my funky necklace again, because it just looks slightly more decorative, you know, for people to look at while I'm talking to you. So it's been a fairly tough couple of weeks. The sort of a sequel to a fairly tough couple of months, just like for lots of people. And it's like, even with the whole YouTube thing, it seems like we not only is there only so much we can actually do or get done or get fitted into our mind frames, there is moments when this is comfortable and other moments when it isn't, right? So I think that's really what it's all about. And I'm going to stick a card behind the phone so that way it's even slightly more. I'm still fiddling here as I'm, you know, setting up for today. I have been quite... The thing is, I landed in some kind of a psychological therapeutic rabbit hole when I adopted my great-grandmother's name for the newly erected, newly finished, inaugurated Holocaust monument in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago. That just got me into a whole turmoil of new connections and things that had to take form, take shape, I suppose. And by now, maybe I know what I'm on about a bit more. It's a change in my life from sort of basically having been shielded from a lot of that knowledge, also by myself, for decades, really, where I knew there was all this Auschwitz stuff in my background, and I just didn't involve myself with it. I knew I couldn't deal with it, you know, because dealing with it means that actually my whole body starts to hurt. There's pain here. It's pain. It's painful. And it should be, okay? By now, at this moment, I'm also noticing, and this is also partly, you know, going to be a Tummo practice update for you guys. Tummo has been helpful again. Let me go into that first, and then we're done with the Tummo thing, okay? And then we can go back to whatever else I've been up to, because I've been up to other things. I've been making things, so it should be pretty to watch at some point. Let's not run ahead of myself here, okay? So the Tummo thing is, if what I'm noticing, sort of a ground rule as to the whole Tummo practice thing is, Tummo does not solve my problems for me. If I have pain, as long as I am in the stage of acknowledging pain that has been there for a long time, in the early stages of acknowledging that, okay, of getting to a part of myself that has been neglected, basically, for decades or for however long, in whatever type it will apply, wherever there's pain, okay? in that early stage of your just getting to know this whole part of yourself, where you're gonna go like, okay, so for Pete's sake, okay, I know this is my life. Okay, so let me just try and deal with this. Okay, let me finally grab courage from wherever I can find it and just go ahead and face this issue. Face the issue. Okay, whenever you're doing that, at that point, Tummo is not Tummo energy. The result of your Kundalini Yoga Tummo transformation process, it's not going to help at that moment unless it is in a sense of there being enough fuel inside your body to generally keep your show on the road, whatever that means, energy for getting things done, energy for continuing to reach the end of the day with some things done, whatever that means, that can mean this much or it can mean this much. It's personal. The supply of energy through increases through the Tummo process, through the practice. As the longer you do your Kundalini yoga, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's videos and playlists on my channel. Please feel free to go there and check them out. Check them out now if you want. If this is like, what's she going on about, then that's all there for that. I still should make a simple Tummo introduction video, which I should stick at the top of everything, because then, that'll be the easiest thing to do. As it is, you will just have to do a bit of digging, but it's all there. There's lots of intel about how I do this, how I found it, and how I've developed, my own interaction with this type of thing. It's utterly beneficial. So there will be an increase in energy as long as the more you do this. It's safe, you know what you're doing. There's certain types of expressions that come to you. There's certain choices that you start making in your life. This is all when you are not trying to deal with pain, okay? The dealing with pain part, Tummo doesn't help you deal with pain. Tummo helps you deal with a lack of energy. I just think this is important enough to go on about for a tiny bit here. As we process our things, as we go through our process with this type of emotion, no matter what it is that we've been through, really, in the Tummo context, more and more we realize that a lot of the pain has to do with a lack of energy, especially in the heart, in the heart area. This is a big place. Your heart is a huge place that has a lot of levels with different qualities to them. It's extraordinarily pretty and interesting and great to work with from a Tummo perspective, from an energy work kind of a point of view. So when there's you are going to be encouraged, we are going to be it's going to be easier, you're going to be stronger to engage in pain that has always been impossible to deal with, that has just always been too much to deal with, okay? Trauma, it's always been, that's what is, trauma is really pain that has just not been dealt with. So it just hangs in the back of your system somewhere like a mass of fossils, it's like a rock face, really, that if you are me, you're gonna want to get rid of it or to live through it so first of all, you need strength and courage and energy to get that show on the road, get that process started. And there's a lot of resistance inside us because we need to live. We need to have, in our everyday kind of a circumstance, we still need to do the laundry. We still need to go to the job. We still have people who expect us to be more or less, normal, whatever that means. So doing Tummo actually makes it possible in the first instance. Then there's a phase where you cannot really practice Tummo to help yourself, I find. There's like a hole in the whole thing. For some reason, maybe it's because I'm not a Buddhist, I have started interpreting Buddhist imagery, so art, right, from Southeast Asia, the Himalayas, and India, more and more in terms of Kundalini, in terms of Shakti, what the Shakti process actually feels like. I can see, I can recognize in the art a lot of the time. But I'm not a Buddhist. I do use some of these figures and some of the mantras to give me a sense of support, to give me, I wonder if I really need them at this stage. I'm a firm believer that I have done all that stuff in past lives to the extent that I can actually say I know anything about that. I have personal belief and conviction that A, there is such a thing as past lives, B, lots of past lives, different types of past lives in different phases. We are hugely complex creatures. The more you dig, the more you will find. So endless lives going down into time, And there's areas in history, areas in geography, I should say, on the surface of the earth that I feel a stronger sense of connection, personal, emotional connection to than I can explain from my experience in this life, which is, I think, what most people with past life experiences will say. They will say, I am connected emotionally to this place, this town, this castle, this thing, whatever it is, There's a reason why it feels that way. So I feel, coming back to my Tummo, that I have done the religious framework that is Buddhism in whatever form, in maybe even the pre-Buddhist Bon type religions, animism. I have done that. I am here now as a Dutch national in the Netherlands on the other side of the Eurasian continent, grown up in a context that has very little myth and story to it. So very, very little of the iconography, the imagery, the richness. The only teeny tiny little bit of rich imagery that I carry with me is a Judaic type of a streak that is inside me, definitely. And we will get back to that because I got me a book from the internet, which is going to be interesting. I have an interest in Kabbalah because of this. There's if I read, I've got this really nice book about Kabbalah that I unearthed somewhere, and I started reading it, and it's like I read every page, it's like, I know this. There's stuff that's on the page that I go like, how is it that I know this? This is so familiar. It feels so, it's not like I'm going, this is right, or this is exactly, but I can so understand the philosophy. It's like it's in my blood somewhere. I don't know. I have no Jewish upbringing, no Judaism culture, history, literature, no Talmud, and none of it, in my direct physical experience in this body. But my father was a descendant of half of his ancestors was from Jewish origin, right? So there's that. I believe it is useful in the Tummo context. Okay, I will be going back to the Tummo constantly, hopefully, if I don't completely lose myself in my story here. As you notice, I don't script or write anything out beforehand. I don't even have notes or anything. I'm supposed to be able to just give it to you straight off the, out of the brain to the audience, to the camera, to the world. So I think there's a use for imagery for humans, just as there is a use for therapeutic measures in the context of Tummo. Kundalini yoga in the form of Tummo, the point of that is improve physical health, improve mental and psychological and emotional health, improve spiritual health in some form of a correlation to each other. So if there's rock surfaces of trauma behind us, they will be accessed at some point or other. I believe, and so far I have certainly seen, the Tummo energy, the transformed Shakti Kundalini energy, will only go to those places if we actively choose for that to happen. So at that point, not only is there a way of how the Tummo energy gives you enough strength and courage and so on, like I said earlier, to do the thing, there are actual physical areas in your body, like around your backbone and in your heart area over here, where you will have to start off. This happened for me in December and January of this year, getting the Shakti, the Tummo energy, into areas where it didn't used to go, physically, okay? And that then later develops into everything starts to come alive. Everything starts to feel alive, which is awesome, I can tell you. It's just like being reborn over and over, which also tends to hurt for a while. But that actually passes and you get huge amounts of life, immense masses of colorful and beautiful and fragrant, thinking of my cinnamon cypress thing, which is constantly floating in my area here. This just becomes so much more alive. It's gorgeous. Back to the therapeutic part. Okay, there is a point where you're in pain, where you're actively blocked. There is actively a moment where this rock surface is just too tough. Mentally, okay? Mentally, psychologically, emotionally, there's an area that we are just not capable of dealing with at that moment. At that point, the Tummo is active inside us, but it's not like it's helping. What I get then is a sense of, weirdly, it becomes cold. The whole experience of I'm often completely exhausted. Often, it's not like this happens all the time. There's phases, okay? There's a phase where I just cannot do anything, really, that makes the slightest bit of difference, except see to hydration, food and hydration, and see to sleep, and see to physical exercise in the beautiful outdoors as much as possible. Physical exercise, oxygen, fresh air, those kinds of things. That's crucial. And then sort of a half a day after the tense, cold, fighting, immobilized type of a situation that I was having, with my rock surface of things, there is a moment where it sort of has apparently done itself. It apparently has dissolved somewhat. And then I can actually start to feel the pain. I'm realizing now that I'm sitting here talking to you guys and actually taking the time to sort of pluck it all apart, all this whole process. Before, I'm feeling cold and I feel incapacitated. I feel paralyzed. I actually feel kind of paralyzed for a while. And I have to pay attention to physical things. I also have to talk about things. And so there has to be an opportunity for me to talk to somebody in some context, preferably in real life, share things, make decisions, make things even. And then there is a phase after when I've started to engage properly with this context. So in this case, in this particular situation with my, with my little history, with my Holocaust monument brick here, it has to do with my Jewish ancestry and what they have been through, about which I know next to nothing, except that I have names and dates of murder in Auschwitz, and there's more. There's dozens of names. So, but there wasn't pain, there was just cold and paralysis. And then it has to, the sort of the general inside me, there's a shift where the warmth of the Tummo sort of finally, slowly convinces me that I can be alive and experience the pain at the same time. You see what I mean? It just goes slowly into it and sort of little by little, like the tide of the sea inside is changing. It's there's been a complete ebb or a complete low tide at the moment of the paralysis, in the phase of the paralysis. There's a moment where you just feel like you can't really do anything in terms of energy work or focus or visualization. Nothing makes the slightest difference. There's a moment where you just have to wait for the inner surrender to come. And that's the great thing about Tummo practice as well, is that will come. Because in the presence of the Tummo energy, in the back of you, in the behind brain, wherever it's happening, it will melt the resistance. Wherever it is, whether it's in your underbelly, which is another, really crucial part of life for all of us, whether we like it or not. So then comes the actual experience of whatever it was that was hurting us, okay? But now we are in it with this massive power, okay? I am sort of slowing down here, even from a tempo that isn't really of this world, would you say? Slowing down to show you, to tell you what it is like. And I noticed that I haven't really done this in this way before, which is cool and awesome in my book, Suddenly, we are there, and it can be completely overwhelming. The memories of the bad things can be completely overwhelming, and they can be shocking and disgraceful, and we can be angry and sad and feel abandoned and feel a million things. There's one crucial difference. We have our energy. We actually do have an energy available to us that is there for us, that is 100% unconditional on our side, if we let it, because it's still our own choice. So you can sort of adapt your posture, your level of engagement with your Shakti energy to suit you on that particular day at that moment, right? That's the whole secret of doing Tummo, is that you can regulate your Kundalini experience. Actually, yourself. You can be the author of your Kundalini process. Hallelujah. And it's bloody freaking awesome. So you're there, and this thing is in your life, and you're hating every second of it, and it's a bloody nightmare. But this time we have strength. We have a different self that is us, because it's part of us. It was always part of us, but it was unacknowledged, and it was trodden down, and it was shelved, down to the basement, literally, by the society we grew up in, by our anatomy, our bodies that try to have as little to do, to only use little tiny bits of the Shakti energy as is allowed. A lot of the Shakti energy in our societies, it's all there, but it's throttled. Would you say, how do you say that? It's the access channels are made so narrow that it only comes into our bodies on automatic. So we have no real communication with it. We don't know what it feels like. We don't know what it does really, and so on and so forth. So, okay, so this is the phase of actually going through some of these things that are important to us, and the way we go through them is different, but there's a lot of pain still. Okay, it's still your life. It's still, if this has been your life, then it's going to be tough still, but you're going to be able to do things that you weren't able to do beforehand, in terms of coping, in terms of getting upset about things, in terms of expressing yourself, in terms of deciding for yourself, I'm not taking this stuff anymore. I'm not taking the way this feels anymore. I'm not taking that this makes me a victim. I'm not taking that I identify, that I identify with the way my mother was a victim and fought it tooth and nail all her life without success, I must say. Only so this creates lots of changes. This creates all sorts of opportunities that we have to work through, that you actually have to develop and make happen in our lives. And then when all that is sort of starting to okay, so a week later, we kind of gotten used to the idea. That's what happens for me anyway. And then I go back to actively practicing Tummo, doing a normal, what my approach tends to be with, getting the energy going again. And I notice something I hadn't noticed because I'd been in it for a week, that this whole area here is completely, it feels like it's been battered, like it's black and blue. I'm in pain. And then I get the Shakti energy into the first Dantian, let it sit there for as long as possible, get the Dantian properly active again. That may take a while, and so on and so forth. But because I've done this for nearly 2 years now, it goes up, and I can easily say, okay, so here's another, let's have a 10% portion of my Tummo energy, and it goes right in there, and in here, and in here, and in here. All sorts of channels going into the back, and it's like, oh God, yes. It solves the tension that's the result from the pain. The body is all tensed up. This whole area is completely tensed up from having to deal with all the things. This clenching in here is what causes us to have a hard time finding words and expressing the words into the world and expressing whatever it is that we need to express. Emotion, emotion. And then just bringing the Shakti in there again. Everything just goes like, okay, coming up for air here, breathing in the good sunshine. It's been raining for a couple of days. The air and the earth and the trees smell gorgeous. Everything smells beautiful. Inhale the life. That's what happens right there. Down to the, innermost little nuggets of truth that are sitting right at the back towards your backbone. Right in there. There's lots of nuggets, Tummo process. Up and down, ebb and flow, tides. The tides of Tummo. Maybe that's one way of calling this. I'm already talking for more than half an hour. Am I? Yes. Dear God. So practically, okay, this was my Tummo process update so far. That's done. I just did this type of a Tummo session this morning. Got the energy to go in here. Feel loads better. Can do talk. Can do vlog again. Come out to revive the channel if possible. Have some more, things to say. Things that I think are nice to share. For free. For no money at all. Isn't it awesome? So I have two more things that I really want to share and or show, at least parts of. I bought a book, like I said. I actually got a first edition of this book, which is pretty neat. It's a bound little copy of this book, which feels like I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting some kind of a 70s reprint, lame cardboard version of this book. It actually has a big sticker on the back. It was only a tenner because nobody's interested in Jewish people. Because there's so many other people who are in pain. And like other people were saying earlier last week, pain is pain. It doesn't matter where the pain, it matters to us where our pain comes from. Yes, it does, of course. Okay, the sticker comes off really well. It doesn't really do damage to the book. There's a little piece of paper sticking right there, but this is fine. The important thing is to redefine ourselves as what we really are instead of as victims. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. It doesn't matter. It's not like one type of pain is more important than the other type. This doesn't make any sense. This book is The Lost Ghetto. It's in Dutch. It's by Dr. J. Meyer. And it has photographs and so on and so forth and pictures, a few. I'm just going to show you a couple of pages. Just to see what this is. This is from 1948. It is it's about a lost ghetto, part of Jewish Amsterdam, where my ancestors used to live, on my dad's side, a few of them anyway. It's also where the Holocaust monument has been set, except that a lot of this type of surroundings with, shops and places, what this looks like, people, loads and loads of people. Here is the market photograph, something like that. I'm just giving you a slight idea. Nowadays, this still exists. This is Rembrandt's house in Amsterdam. Pretty gorgeous. It's really old. It's probably 16th century, I would guess, from the shutters on the windows and all that is still in shape. A lot of that area was destroyed in the war. I think it was bombed, but I will have to find that out from this book, what exactly happened. It has been replaced with concrete, the most horrible big-ass concrete high-rise apartment type buildings and business buildings and banks and stuff like that. And nobody knows really what it used to look like anymore. And a lot of the history is gone. And for some reason, this is quite... this is relevant to me. I have lived in Amsterdam as a student for a few years, and then when I met my husband, I lived with him for a while. Well, yeah, this is what was left of that type of area after the war, right? So there you go. This is actually from just a few years after the war, and I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about how the people used to live, what it used to be like. I suppose it was all really busy, lots of kids, running around, women shouting at each other, that kind of thing. And hundreds and hundreds of people all piled on top of each other. There's a little piece of a corner of an old newspaper stuck in the middle there, which I will investigate later. It has some print on it. Lots of social organization things happening. Lots of people with kids. Kids on top of each other. Like so. Yeah. Poverty, This just came in the post just now, and I'm really pleased that I get this pretty edition that actually has a gold letter on the front. Nice and prim and neat. And I just paid 10 euros for this, which is like $11 in American money, something like that. Okay, some part of life that I have never heard of involving kids out in the street, making a little fire in a pot, something like that. We will see where we get from here. So the big thing, this is the small thing, small and significant in my life. I'm going to put this to the side now. The big thing that I've been working on like crazy all week is this massive volume. You guys, binding books is normally something I enjoy doing. This may have been slightly more biting off, slightly more than I can chew-ish kind of a deal here. Also seeing as that it's fairly irregular what's happened, and I sort of repurposed a dummy book that I just bought in the shop, which was a third of the thickness, the same dimensions otherwise, which had this velvet cover that I'd made for it a couple of years ago. I had used it, I should say past tense, as a art journal to write experiences to do with painting in and so on. I've taken those pages out and kept them, yes, which is a new thing because normally I'd always just chuck it all, go, never mind. This case, I actually saved those couple of pages, like 6 pages or so of handwritten stuff, because it was all really positive and happy, and I was enjoying painting work and stuff at those moments, so that was fine. But I wanted a big book. I started on a couple of drawings, paintings on paper using different types of paint and inks, and also bits of fabric glued on and so on, incorporated into the whole of the picture. I was enjoying doing that so much that I decided I wanted a book for those images to go into. So as an example, I'm going to show you the second one of those. If I can find it quickly. Yes, I can. Here it is. So this is an example of what I made, which is fairly abstract and therefore slightly more neutral than the other two that I've got in here. I actually got 3 of those types of drawings, and there's these big fat lines that you see across everything. That's actually thread from a fabric, from a woolen blanket, where I pulled out threads on the side of the blanket where it was all old and worn, and I hadn't thrown the threads away. So I glued those on top of my painting and drawing exercise here. And this bright sort of a shape at the back here, the diamond shape, actually represents my impression of a visit that I made to a ley line a couple of weeks ago that's close, in a couple of miles up yonder north from here. So there's 2 more. I want to do a full flip through, of this book at some point soon. There's loads of, photographs, drawings and things in here. There's also loads of empty pages because it's supposed to be becoming a book of mirrors and or grimoire. I suppose the term grimoire is actually better in that it is going to be about the Tummo process in a lot of detail, with illustrations, with sketches and pointers and techniques and meditation exercises and all the rest of it. I want all that to be in here. Also, maybe poetry. There's mushrooms in here, the lot, everything that is semi-relevant to my whole witchy, the witchy form is where it all ends up. What I end up calling it. It is my craft. My craft is Tummo. And so the Tummo craft, the Tummo approach, the techniques, the whole, all of that, is at the base of how I see life, how I experience life, and this is going to show that. So I'll show you one more. Okay, this one, why not? A combo of a drawing that I made, just a really sort of a natural abstract kind of a deal with inks and colors, and it has this photograph sitting opposite it, which is a sort of a riverbed in the Alps somewhere, with a piece of stone that actually sits there naturally, that I didn't put there, as a bridge between two parts. So there's a lot of instances where the photograph that I took 15 or 20 or 25 years ago in actual, you know, with an actual proper handheld camera, one of those crinky clunky types of cameras, you know, those photographs go beautifully, to the extent that they nearly make me cry so beautifully, with my drawings that I made last year. Okay, most of them. And so that was so encouraging to do. I spent the last, let me see, Friday I did the binding. Saturday I did the gluing in of my drawings, which was like, I don't know, 20 or so drawings in total that went in here. I had made room in my binding process here so that the drawings would all be able to go in there, to get glued in there, without the book going weep, you know, exploding into hyperspace. I'd actually sort of taken that into account before doing my binding. It's not perfect, and it doesn't matter, and I don't care, because it's going to look awesome when it's all completely done. So as soon as I have sort of done 1 page or 2 pages of my actual note taking and the actual text part of the whole story here, where my Tummo thing is introduced and or whatever that's going to look like, then I will be able to do a flip through, or, you know, show you what it's going to look like in total. As it is now, it only has images. It has more images that I need to get out of my computer, print out, and it's very tempting, but it's probably not going to happen, because I really need to get my text page from here to, you know, actually what it's supposed to look like. And there's types of paper in here that you cannot write on with markers or anything easy to use, you know, because it'll create these ink blobs, which are a nightmare. So for you guys who are into that kind of thing, it is a delight, and I'm so pleased, and I have so many beautiful things in here. It's just fantastic. And the sort of the conjunction of all the times of my life, all the experiences, all the things, all the levels, and all the emotions, and all of it. This is my, you have to, you know, transform it into life, actually. The whole, you cannot just be the recipient of things. You also have to bring it back out there and do something and show people. So that's what I've been doing. And I'm nearly 50 minutes in talking like that. Just like, you know, just open the tap and out comes the whole story. Thank you for watching, you guys. Thank you for, you know, tagging along. And you will be, we will show this when it's ready, okay? Otherwise, I wish you a nice day and whatever's left of it for you at this point. And see you soon, okay? Thank you so much, my dears. See you next time. Bye-bye.